All right, so welcome everybody. Mental health, are you okay? Talk number 2. We had episode 1 last week. My name is Brian Webster, East Central Province, Senior Province Vice Polmark, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Just to give you a little background, the Are You Okay is a national initiative for us, for our organizations, but we thought, hey, let's include the other fraternities because we're all men and mental health is important. So we started to get a little dialogue going, to have some conversation. So we'll introduce ourselves, starting with Ken, going this way, so at least you know who everybody is.
Ken Kirkland.
Waverly Willis.
Jermaine Brooks.
John Jackson.
Mark Sorrells. Eric Walton.
So we have members of Kappa Alpha Psi, it's about 5 of us, and then we have members of Iota Phi Theta, Fraternity Incorporated. So thank y'all for joining us. So how I always start the conversation, and not everybody has to answer, but this one I want everybody to say something. How you doing? Are you okay? I want to check in with that, and then the conversation will probably lead from there. So I'm gonna start with on the end. So how are you feeling?
I'm feeling well, brother.
Now, is the "Are you well" what you supposed to say, or is that really how you feeling?
No, this is how I'm feeling. Always an actual advocate. If you're feeling good, say it. You know, it's one of those days because we as a people always say we're not feeling good. So the days we are, you got to say it. Put it in the universe.
Amen. Mark, how you feeling?
I'm doing okay, I guess. But I have to admit, at times, feel a little stressful, but, I think I'm okay.
That wasn't the most confident answer, Mark. You said, I think, I guess. You weren't too sure, so we'll revisit that. You the reason why we're here. We need this combo. How you feeling, my brother?
I'm doing good.
That's it?
I'm doing good. I'm managing every day, managing my mental health every day, managing my work-life balance. So yeah, I'm doing good.
So we're going to come back to you because them questions I want to ask. So thank you for opening that up.
All
and
right.
I'm going to give y'all the chance to just say how you feel because you might need to get something off your chest.
Also, we're going out.
Yeah, you, Brother Paul Martin. I'm going to go this way.
There we go. And it's funny you asked that because when I was walking out of the office headed over here, somebody walked past, you always do the little same, how you doing? Everything going good? And I was like, yeah. He was like, I don't want to hear any crying, no way. And I was like, yeah, don't nobody gonna listen but your mama. You know what I'm saying? So that was just us. Because as soon as I sat down, I was like, man, what a day. You understand what I'm saying? So I would say, how am I doing right now? Stressed out. Got a lot of stuff going on. Head was hurting all this morning. Didn't know what the hell was going on. Made me a little bit nervous. Any little ailment you get now, you get worried about it.
So if I didn't ask you this question and we didn't have this, you wouldn't have been able to express how you feel? You wouldn't be able to talk about it?
No, I would have been the same as, I don't want to hear your problems, everything, peachy keen, and kept it moving.
So how do you get through it? And we'll get into more about pushing through because we all got to do it as men. But how are you getting through? How are you going to manage this stress?
That's a great question. I mean, I try to hit the gym.
I would say I used to see you at the gym. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, I've actually been doing good. Last 3 months, at least 3 days out the week, walking in the neighborhood, out of the weather, getting a little bit better. But the biggest thing is just understanding. And I think that was the biggest thing I had to deal with, was just understanding that you are under pressure, you are under stress, and you got to deal with it. Before, you just shoved it up underneath the rug and kept going. So I think just acknowledgement was key in my world.
Amen. Wade, we talked about this last week and kind of opened up with it with a smaller group of just us brothers. And the flip side of that question, we always said, if you wasn't doing well, would you want to tell me or would you listen?
Right.
So how are you feeling? Because I know your approach to life.
Mm-hmm. Well, today, honestly, I'm feeling good, but I'm always glasses half full type of guy. Just like Jermaine, I got my stressors and things of that nature. And I think this is an excellent subject matter and an excellent subject matter to open up with. Because like we said the other day, normally it's, hey, how you doing? That's robotic. And then the answer is, I'm good. That's robotic too.
Right.
So I think if we kind of change the way that we look at that, you know, maybe we can, you know, take some of that stress off of us. You know, even if we have a 5-minute conversation at the water cooler or at the gym or whatever, that might help us out.
Ken Kirkland. I guess for me, to answer that question, you know, oftentimes I'm not very transparent because I don't truly want to contribute to what's already negative or going bad in people's lives. We are always going through something. So when you ask someone how they're doing, for me, if you ask me that, I'm always going to give you that routine response just because I don't want to add more to it. But, you know, there's a few people in your life, my uncles happens to be here, where, you know, I kind of reveal my true feelings of really what's going on. But I think, you know, what's important for all of us men out there is that we learn coping strategies and we find people we can trust, that we can reveal to them what our true feelings are, because I think that really adds value in this crazy world that we're living in. Thank you.
Thank you. Always provided a little comic relief. But you know, one of the reasons we had the discussion, not only, you know, it's a national initiative for us, but personally in our chapter, which is Alpha Omega Chapter, we've lost a couple brothers to suicide, young brothers, you know, fairly recently. So, you know, again, this idea, I talked about it at the end of the last episode, it's not to go viral, it's not for attention, it's just because I feel like we could all do more, and let's just check in with each other, because if I'm going to just hear stories or see it, or we always hear about it on the news, why not do something to try to change it? And again, I appreciate y'all coming here for this conversation. So this is why we're here, because we don't do this. We don't get a chance to express ourselves, talk about it. You talked about coping strategies, and I want to come back to that. But I want to go back to you, because you said a few things. So let's get more fraternity talk going. So we got regionals coming up. Ours is the same weekend.
Okay.
Fittingly.
Okay.
Yours is here in Cleveland. Ours is in Akron.
Okay.
And I'm going to bounce to you two and then go outside and maybe with some other questions. But as you prepare for regionals, you know, I don't know when you cross, if, you know, you've been in for a minute, or, you know, you're like a neophyte or recently new, but how are you managing preparing for regionals? Whether it's your first one, whether it's your 30th, 20th, how are you preparing, being a member of your fraternity, a man, family, work, and then you have this? Like, how do you manage? Because we talked about coping. So how do you manage planning and doing all this, and you got a life too? So how are y'all managing? And I want to get your perspective, Brother Paul Mark, after.
Okay, so when you asked me that question about how I'm doing, I got a different answer for you. I'm in a pressure cooker every day.
I wanted to do this in the kitchen because I feel like it's hot on this seat. But go ahead. That was
What I mean by pressure cooker is I'm a mental health worker, and I work with not guilty by reason of insanity, incompetent to stand trial. I work as a chemical dependency substance use counselor, right? And then I'm a survivor of a car crash. So I had acute anxiety, depression, adjustment disorder, and PTSD. So I've been doing this job for 4 years. I crossed Iota in the spring of 1991. So we are old school Iotas, so to speak, my frat brother Eric and I. But you asked a question about regionals, how we getting ready for regionals. So we've been working together. We've been planning for regionals. We work as a team, so we have, our outfit is together for regionals. So everybody has a certain role, and then we participate in community service events. So we wanted to participate in this. Yeah, I'm managing my mental health because that's what it takes, you know. So, you know, work-life balance, staying focused. I got a calendar now. I got a desk-sized calendar now, and I'm trying to help so many people. So many people rely on me, so I have to be okay in order to be okay to help people, you know. So, yeah, I like to think that I'm doing well. I think managing your mental health, well, first of all, being a man is hard. People don't talk about that enough, and it's not an ecosystem that's set up for us to come to where we have this haven, right? Where we can feel comfortable, where we can talk about, you know, the stigma of getting therapy, you know, or dealing with our unhealed, unresolved trauma. So, you know, it's difficult. navigating through this world, especially in the Trump era. It's very difficult. But you have to have coping strategies set up. You have to have emotion regulation. You have to have some emotional maturity. So if you are lacking in any of those areas, to get those skills will help you to function. So we only got the option of doing well. As men, we providers. That's our only option. Failure is not an option. I look around on this wall in this beautiful barbershop and I see one over there that says sacrifice and determination and success. You know, when you feed yourself with positive, then you will get positive back. It's all about how you deliberately control your thinking. And then you can manage your emotions and manage your behavior, but you need to deliberately be in control of your thoughts and of situations that you place yourself in.
So you gave us a whole lot there, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Blessing in disguise. I mean, so one would assume that with you being in, mental health specialist and all the work you do, that you just know so much and that you wouldn't even go through certain things because you have so much knowledge on the subject. Like you just well, I know this is how you do it, this and that. But I think you just revealed that you still have to manage. You've been through stuff and you just know how to get through it. And you gave us some good game, to kind of help us out and anybody that may be watching how to get through. And just to piggyback, so we got regionals coming up again, same weekend. Right. We do similar stuff, public meetings, community service. We have our business, elections, kick it, social events, and which I applaud y'all on and doing the work here in Greater Cleveland.
Thank you.
You got a coping strategy, and how are you getting ready for regionals? Because I know every planning call, you've been on a few. You got to get the chapter there. You got to make sure everybody's there to participate mentally, physically, emotionally for everything that's about to happen. Because it ain't easy doing regionals now. Regionals ain't just, it's just going to fly by and be cool. Mm-hmm. So how are you getting ready for it?
It's a multifaceted question, and then I'm still on what he just talked about. And while you were speaking, I was thinking about my journey. About a year ago, we had a couple brothers stand up at chapter meetings and brought some emotional things to the chapter during our good at Kappa, where you get up and just speak freely. And then from there, we started that initiative. I worked with Ken, and we actually had group therapy for the chapter, anybody who wanted to come. That was eye-opening to me as the pole mark, because I was doing it because I seen it was a need. We had lost some brothers had passed, and I thought it was something that needed to be addressed. But when I got there, I didn't realize that I was the one that needed it. One of the biggest revelations that I realized when we were in group therapy is that everybody had therapists except for me. And I've never had one. And that was a realization wow, why haven't I made that step forward? And from there, I was able to talk to the brothers that was there, and they gave me encouragement to say, well, nah, Jermaine, you got a lot. You dealing with this, the chapter, you need to have someone to talk to. And I took it amongst myself to go get a therapist. And from there, I really started seeing, I remember Ken told me, and one of the first, he said, Jermaine, you're doing too much. You got to start passing off a lot of stuff. And delegating and stop taking on everything.
Yeah, been there.
Because just coming from my athletic background and growing up, if it was on your plate, you deal with it, you take care of it, you make sure it's done the right way. I don't want to have to sit and micromanage this, that, and other, but it's just surrounding yourself with people with those same ambitions that you can trust and take and move forward. So I'll say last year when we were doing regionals, it was extremely stressful because I tried to take on a lot because I wanted it to be perfect. This year, I've been delegating a lot and empowering brothers to say, look, I need for you to step up, and I'm giving them their encouragement for them to build and training for leadership, like we always say. So this year is a lot less stressful, and it's just acknowledging my weaknesses, which built strengths for me to pass on to other brothers. So it's like a full circle, just coming from that, and it was the realization too that, if we wouldn't have had that forum for us to sit down and talk about mental health, no telling where I would be right now.
That's deep.
No,
That's real.
That's real, because I grew up with the fact that everything, you just deal with it. You just deal with it. And that was one of the biggest things that I talked about with my counselor. It was just that growing up as an athlete, I played 4 or 5 sports, all through from like 5th grade all the way to college, played sports, and it was always win. And the way we all grew up, I crossed in '94, came out of high school in '93. The way we grew, it wasn't no what's it called when you
Gap year.
No. Right now, in every sport, you get a trophy, participation trophy. Wasn't no participation trophies. You was first, second, third, or fourth. That's all it was. And the second place didn't get no love. Fourth place ain't get no love. It was either you was first or last, like Ricky Bobby said. So you grew. When growing up like that, that's how you are, and that built that tough exterior so that every day you got to win. And
Just win, baby, win.
Win, baby, win. But life ain't all about wins. We just said being a black man today, you get told no 10, 15 times a day, and we shoulder it. And for me to be able to, be with my brothers and have that open dialogue, and like I said, it was the acknowledgement. Like, damn, I'm the only one in therapy. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I doing wrong? And for them to embrace me to say, yeah, Jay, it's time for you to start talking to somebody. That was that acknowledgement, that understanding, and for me to accept it and move forward with it was like life-changing for me.
I appreciate you being open and vulnerable to share that. So, Ken, I know you wanted to say something. Then I got a question for you, Waverly, after this, and I'm gonna come back that way.
As a side note, one of the challenges that I think regarding mental health with African American men in general, and particularly our generation and above, is we weren't supposed to use it. And if you talked, you were a complainer, you were a man. So what I've done, and I was like that, even with my younger sons, But as I grew older and I started seeing more mental health challenges, I had to apologize to my sons and say, you need to seek help. I'm going to start modeling this as well. So I think when you and I went to that session, everyone was there who had a therapist with the exception of Jermaine. But we don't talk about that. I don't say, hey, Mark, man, I'm going to a therapist. I'll say, hey, Mark, what are the Cavs doing? Well, hey, Mark, how much money you making? But we don't talk about other things. So when we talk about the word win, what does that really mean? For us as men, we think about money, maybe some other things. But winning is making sure that we're healthy up here, because everything else will fall through. So I think as our generation in particular, we need to work on dispelling that myth, because our younger generation is really following behind us, and we may not be charting the right course from our forefathers and foremothers. But they did the best they could do, but things have changed.
That was deep. Thank you for sharing that. So, Jermaine, you talked about, getting a therapist. I'm going to come back that way. Wave, I know, Mr. Waverly Willis, the owner of the Barbershop. Again, thank you for hosting. I always have to say that, the best barber around. So I need to thank you every time, because I'm grateful and appreciative of you opening your doors. But last week you talked about you have a therapist if you've had one for a while. Mm-hmm. So I guess before you get there and you talk about your experience, with your therapist, what moment did you say, I'm going to get a therapist, and you started? And then from there to now, just kind of touch on that. Like, what was the moment you said, I'm going to get a therapist, and then you got one? Or how long did it take?
Well, being that I do all of the community service initiatives that I do, years ago, men started normalizing having these type of conversations, men's mental health awareness, things of that nature. And I hosted a few events, and at the time I didn't have a therapist. So, I wanted to walk it and just not talk it. And because our generation, we come from Jesus will fix it. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, whatever God you believe in, I believe that God will fix it. But I also have told people that tell me that type of stuff that God put therapists on the earth too, So I did begin doing therapy, and surprisingly, it helped me out quite a bit. You know, you said that you was a mental health and a chemical dependency counselor. I'm in recovery, and so when I went to drug and alcohol treatment and just started talking about the things that I had been through on the streets, like I realized, like, wow, man, you know, I have been carrying a lot on my shoulders, you know, and so I think that should have been a proud moment when you realized, Jermaine, that you was the only brother in the room without a therapist. That's monumental to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just for the record, for the people, I know we are brothers that's representing our fraternities, but some brothers might not be at the point that they want to go see a therapist. And I think the point that we have in this forum inside of a barbershop, because the barbershop can be your therapy too, you know what I'm saying? I think the most important thing in recovery, we have a saying, a problem shared is cut in half. So whatever you're going through, talk to somebody with. You might not be ready to take that leap to actually go see a therapist, but you know, in the barbershop, you know, it's a place of comfort, it's a place of trust. Share it with somebody, your barber, the whole barbershop, you know, and just get that off your chest. So I just wanted to, you know, brothers to take advantage of the resources that they have, you know, and you can get some good and bad advice in the barbershop, to be quite honest with you.
It's a fun time. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something when we was talking about the last subject. I know you want to touch on it.
Piggyback on my brothers, and I consider everyone in the room my brother, because biblically we are brothers.
Amen.
Absolutely.
So historically, the black man have always been oppressed out of day one, historically. And I understand the brother, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Jermaine stated that, you know, his generation had to be tough, but we all grew up in trauma. The black neighborhood, how we talk to each other, how the corner store, how our brothers and sisters dealt with. It took me to be 50 to find out we all got PTSD, post-traumatic stress, from the neighborhood. So it wasn't cool to be not tough. You had to be tough to survive. If you wasn't, you get ran over. So our culture, our race was dominant already. So, and I found out when I went to OSU, Ohio State, I seen how other races did it. They live in suburban neighborhoods. They have a suburban school. They go to suburban malls. They don't do the things we do. They don't wash their bag. They do leave their house open. They do leave their car running, car keys there. We don't have that stress. And he always asks us, well, why don't y'all graduate? We have a whole lot of burden coming to the university other than what they do. A lot of us had jobs. You know, a lot of us was doing real life situation. See, our frat was founded with men was untraditional men. We was working men, we was veterans, we was had jobs, we was older. So that's how we was founded. So a black man traditionally, we're not a traditional student. I don't know no black man that's went to college and did 4 years. He had financial aid, he had a grant, he had a summer job, he was on a football team, he was on a track team. So that takes away your learning. So we as a people are born in trauma. If you in an inner city, you have PTSD.
Period.
I
That's
can
100.
point to a PTSD you have.
That's real.
It can be in your four walls without going outside.
Right.
It can be in those four walls. So I come to the now what stage. Like the slaves, when we was free, they just threw us out there. So now what? Y'all free. Now, well, we can't adapt, you know, because we don't know how to read. You took the books away from us, took the language away from us, took the culture away from us. So now what? In a sense, we're still slaves being free. So the black man got to input himself into this new world. So we got to rethink ourselves and saying, well, yeah, it's bad to cry. No, it isn't. It's bad to show emotion. No, it isn't. There's a lot of coworkers on my job, people have passed away. And I told you, my mom and dad passed away, Ken's grandfather and grandmother passed away. And I tell everybody, let your body go through the cycles to heal itself. See, the body heals itself. let your body go through those cycles. We was told, don't go through those cycles. You don't cry in this house. You gotta be tough. You gotta be rough to make it out there. That's incorrect. You know, God made us with flesh and blood. I can split all of us open, we gonna bleed the same way. So we was told for so long not to show, so now it's in our soul.
Yeah.
And we pass it on to our next generation. Oh no, you gotta be tough, you gotta be rough. They not saying that to those people, you know, and they cut from a different cloth. When you white, you could be mediocre and still get rewarded.
Oh, definitely.
When you black, you gotta be outstanding.
To be mediocre.
To be mediocre.
Yep.
That's a real point. Now, I don't know if y'all caught that, but they're related, Kid and John. So, and I got a question I'm gonna come back to. But Mark, I got a question because we've been talking about trauma and going through certain things. I know you don't have to disclose what it was, but I know you recently, you know, you disclosed to me, you know, a situation that kind of may have induced some trauma, you know, that was family oriented with you. And Mark, if y'all don't know Mark, he's very quiet a lot of the times, but when he speaks, you listen. And he's the smartest man that I know. So, you know, positivity. So, like, how did you deal with that situation? And you may still be going through the cycles that he talked about with that trauma, because you're grown. You know what I'm saying? You recently got, you know, grandchild. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But like how are you getting through that situation? Because when you called me, I'm glad that you decided to come and talk, because you don't talk much, and I'm glad to see you here. So like I just want to really check in on you. I know what we do it all the time. We talk, see each other, but sorry it's on camera, and I want to know how you getting through it.
It's cool. It's interesting because, like you said, my family dynamic is kind of strange because I'm the second oldest. My brother is slow, so I was really the older brother, even though I was the protector. I did everything to make sure my siblings was cool and all that. And even growing up, my mom lost 2 babies, and that was very traumatic for me because I was like, how could God take these kids? They just babies. And then I was praying every day. So these kids, well, on the second one, I was praying every day because that's what I was taught. You pray, and God will answer prayers. But the baby died. That if you don't understand how much faith I had, but the baby died, set me on a course. Sent me on a crazy course. Because then my mom got pregnant again. And I ain't gonna say what I said, but I'm just gonna say, I told God, I'm not gonna pray to you. And what I did was, I did everything in my power. I got up every morning, cooked breakfast, got my older brother and my younger sister up, made sure they were ready. We would go to school, clean the house. And this was in the 7th grade. So my mom was able to carry the baby 8 months and almost full term, and she survived. And that's my baby sister to this day. And what it has done is I internalized things, constantly cranking, thinking to say, how do I solve this problem? And in the most recent problem I had, my mom was asking me a bunch of questions. I was like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. This ain't something I go through. But I have to admit, and I never thought, because Kappa means so much more to me now, because I was in the jam, and I just picked up the phone and I called one of my frats. I'm like, look, this is legal trouble. I don't know nothing about this. He walked me through it. He taught me through it. because now every time I'm in a bad way, I need a plan. And I need, because really to me, if you're trying to manage even mental health and all that, is really managing your time and your resources effectively, because it eases your anxieties around the whole situation. You're still going to go through anxieties, don't get me wrong, but just by thinking you know, and it just, when you think you can know and you can kind of manage it, and fortunately for me, the outcome of that whole problem, it was a law problem, you know, it was involving my brother, and I'm going to say, all I really truly wanted the most was him not to go to jail over it, because he ain't built that way, and that's, so he, fortunately, I'm so happy he was on probation. But it was that, my mom had cancer, she was fighting that, you know, I was going through a lot, and things weren't going right at work. It was just a year of pure hell, but I have to admit, I thank God for it now. I thank God, because I believe whatever is going to come my way, I can handle it. And I was even stressed with some of my finances, and I think I shared to you earlier that I learned how to trade options. So that was part of that, but I was taking, I have to admit, I think I'm like Jermaine, I try to take on too much. And delegating, when you have a big elephant and trying to do that, I got to work on that more, but I truly believe, but that's part of managing it. And that's part of managing your time. It's part of managing your resources that you have.
That's an example of a coping strategy too. That's an example of a coping strategy too.
Right. And as a man, you notice the word manipulation. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be able to manipulate resources to be.
I didn't know you had this in you, more.
To meet our interests. Put it that way.
That's the most I think I ever heard you speak. But I'm glad you got that off your chest, though, for real, because being around, you know, we all around each other. We may never meet, but sometimes when you meet or you talk to somebody, you can see something is weighing on them. You know, it's something on their mind, whether it's their expression, how they sound, their body language. It's something, and I knew that stuff had been on your shoulders, just observing you. And, you know what I'm saying, I don't get too into details, but I appreciate you sharing that. I'm kind of want to pivot a little bit. You talked about the environment and what, you know, growing up and what it can do to just our people, period. Now, the obvious is that you two are in a different organization than we are. And I know society and the culture kind of tries to pit different organizations against each other. And I guess my question is, you know, either one of you may start, and then I'll turn it over to some of my, you know, fraternity brothers. But like, being that it's often supposed to be a rivalry, like we're supposed to go against each other, and people think that, you know, well, they're not supposed to like each other. It's kind of like, you know, they often say we like gangs, or we like, you know, we just always supposed to get, well, they don't like each other, they don't like them, this, that, and the other. And I think this is proof that we can sit down and have a conversation, because at the end of the day, you hit it on the nose, we're all black men. So I guess my question is, you being that you both, you said 91 and you crossed 88. So being that you've been in an organization this long, and just historically, mentally, I know that, does that add another layer to you being in your organization as a member of Iota Phi Theta? Like, how do you think about it when you think about it being young? Like, okay, it's us against everybody. So now that we're here, you unified, we're having a conversation, and all those years that you've been in your organization, like, has there been a switch? Like, at first I'm against you, but now it's like, well, no, we all in this. And like, how do you maintain that? Because I'll be fully transparent. When I was coming out as an undergraduate, you know, I crossed, this is 2015, 2008, 17 years ago. But, you know, it was like us against the world, and it was like, y'all was the enemy. Like, it was me against everybody, and I had a chip on my shoulder. I'm not from here. You know, they called it Napoleon complex. I had a quick trigger. Like, I would snap at anything. Like, I was just ready on go. And they may be witnesses to me just, I'm going 0 to 100. Like, I'm going at you. What's up? You want a problem? Let's get it. And I think back then for me, it was like, well, that's y'all. Like, what's up? It's on. I don't rock with y'all like that. And I think this is a moment of growth for me, might I add. But like, has that changed for both of you? How you view other frats, not just Kappa, or has it been the same? Or can you just talk about the evolution? I'll start with you, and then I'll come to you. But like, has there been a shift?
Well, I think it's the man itself, who you are. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing brothers saying, I did everything by myself. I got to learn to delegate. But out of the gate, that's how we're taught our DNA. No one's going to help you, son. Do your math. No one's going to help you. No one's going to give you a handout. Black men are told as boys, no one's going to help you. So we're control our projects. I control my projects at work because I'm thinking that. Delegating is something, is almost another island for us. We have to learn that, whereas they learn that. They have organized sports. They have chess clubs, math clubs, tennis clubs, sharing. We don't. We have nothing except that one skill. So that one skill we hone in on so we don't share. So it's cultural. We do the same thing. We argue with each other, we argue with self. I stand in the mirror, Eric, give her the work. We gotta shine. So when I first played Iota, my best friend was a Q from high school. He said, man, why don't you roll with us? But my other best friend went to UC. He said, why don't you do Iota? So anyway, I just crossed Iota. But I have always had love for the black men. So taking it just a step further, I think it was a self-hate for our culture. We're taught, wait a minute, he's from that neighborhood. Wait a minute, he just crossed over from that neighborhood. Our high school is playing that. So it's embedded in us to be at odds. Biblically, like I said it before, and I really do mean this, all black men is my brother. Whatever you wearing, I would say, how you doing, brother? Now, if you come a little different, you may say, Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to say, Alaikum salam.
Yeah.
But if you come a little different, you're not there. For example, I was in advanced auto. It was a Q working, and I had a letter on. And I was telling him, he said, man, I went to Toledo, I did this, we was all that. He just basically said that, we was all that. But I said, but you're still a black man. He wasn't there. And a lot of brothers from historically, we're taught to be rivals. We taught to fight.
Right.
Black gas, if you dark, you in the field. You light skinned, you in the house. So we gotta get past that to say, this is my brother. No matter he is accountant, truck driver, carpet cleaner, CPA, real estate, barbershop, we're still black men. So it took me, I'm gonna say in between. I wasn't all, because I had friends Kappas. My dude was a Q. Alphas, to this day, they invite me to their thing. So I tell the brothers, we're still the same though. And they say, yeah, but they think differently. So we got people in different developmental stages trying to get to that thing. And I think in the blueprint, when we start pledging these people, we need to say something like, it's not about rivalry. Everybody got a unique history, and we got to appreciate that history as a black man. Now you got the Zulus, you got Zimbabwe, you got Tanzania, you got different tribes, and they still, do a little conflict. So it is in our DNA, but you as a man got to say, I'm going to still, love this black man. I appreciate the Kappas. They got a huge history. A lot of the things we do, we mention the Kappas. A lot of things we do, we mention other organizations. Now, when Chevy see Ford, the first thing they do is buy the Ford and break it loose. What the hell are they doing, to make this car that wonderful? Then they do a blueprint. But I think it's a self-hate. We gotta rise above and have that love. But when you ask why, that's how we're taught. We're
Amen.
rivals
Right.
at birth.
Right, and I think that goes back to just the mental health or the imbalance of, because you taught that way, so you think a certain way, and I think it just add extra stress. Like, you know, you competition is good, but sometimes you got to worry about yourself in your own, and really the community and what we all join for, the reasons we join for.
And the last thing I'm going to say, when I walked in this barbershop, I walked in open and shook everybody's hand.
Right.
And I said, I was hoping it was going to be receptive, and it was.
Yeah, for sure. And we appreciate you being here. And glad you joined in, because you was gonna sit on the other side, but you came right on in. Now, is that similar for you? Like his mindset? And I'm not saying, you know, we all don't think like this, but I just want to get Joe's take, because to me it affects, you know, interactions and how we are. So I just want to see that, and just so people can know.
So I appreciate your question. You had asked about historically the division between fraternities, right? Like how, you know, different groups are viewed, right? So I'm going to tie in a couple things together. First, after I listen to everybody here bring something to the table, so we all suffer together. And that's the biggest thing that we aren't recognizing, is that we have a common problem, a common enemy, which is suffering, and we're all going through the suffering or the healing process together. Some of us still suffering, some of us healing, some of us not all the way healed. Some of us don't even know that we suffer, and some of us don't know that we need to be healed. So when we have the big A, and then the divine nine, it's divine nine, not divided nine, right? And so as we grew into our own in the 60s, we were divided. And there was the big 8 in us. Who are the Iota who? What is an Iota? You know, and I remember many times getting into altercations because of this identity thing, right? And I think the reason why we had this identity thing is because we were already being divided as a nation. That's where we get the PTSD from as a nation, is slavery. So when we start thinking about what happened at the end of slavery, right? Like they're currently now using that Alien Act to get some of the people out of here, right? But they're using history to continue to try to divide us. But we currently are still being victimized. If you look around, we're still being victimized. Our rights are still being taken away from us. So we overhauling the elections, losing benefits. So historically, the United States has been a country that it was about divide and conquer. It's what Willie Lynch was about. That's what post-slavery era was about. That was what the Harlem Renaissance was about, us finding our own, finding our identity. We still are at a point where we don't know we all suffering, and that's a problem. So we don't know how to heal together because we don't know we need each other to heal. Now, the Divine Nine, for example, the largest black organization in the world with 4 million members. Okay, larger than the NAACP, which has 300,000, larger than the Urban League, which has 92 affiliates.
You got them
right?
stats.
So when we think about each of our organizations, we all contributed to this, to the divine nine. Now we could be a divine nine or divided nine. As we see in news stories that we got out now, mental health is prevalent. Some of the hazing practices now that's going on, mental health is definitely something that contributed to that. And then when you see the residue of hate, you have to shower it with love, right? So we need to be more present in handling this because we have an impact, right? And we can touch so many people, right? So us being divided, fighting at a party, that's ridiculous. Like now, that's not what hazing. I went through above ground pledging. You know what I'm saying? So our come out show was above ground. It was different then. Hazing was different then. And I think everything is just evolved now. So with us just being here, right? We recognize the need for unity, and we need to be approaching this thing on a united front because we all are the same. All of our organizations are bounded in service to the community. to our fellow man and woman. So I'm thankful that we're having this discussion, but this needs to be the impetus for the galvanizing of a movement.
Yeah.
Because we are stronger together, okay? We are divided. Right now, we're gonna see in the next couple years, you're gonna see startling things start to happen. Think about this. Think about 100,000 people just lost their jobs, federal workers. Think about the impact of mental health on that. Just stay there for a moment. People are about to lose their Social Security. People are fighting for their veteran benefits, their disability benefits. Think about the number of people that are about to suffer because they don't have anything in place. So you all recognize, which I admire, you all recognize the need to have these conversations. My group today was about stressful conversations, responding to anger and accusation, right? Personal accountability comes into it, right? So we were grandfathered into a climate of hate, into an ecosystem of hate. And so that's why we were divided. That's why we were hazing each other. That's why we out here killing each other. And so the fact that we have so much unresolved trauma is a reason why the attention and the focus on our unity is more prevalent now. We need each other because we all are in pain together. Think about that.
I mean, thank you for that, and I mean, I hope that this is a step one. Taking off one hat just for Kappa, putting on another for the MPAC of Greater Cleveland, being the first vice president. This was an initiative. We did a health challenge, so that was more like physical activity. It was to get the physical part. This is more so the mental, which delves into the spiritual. And in the future, hopefully, all the fraternities can join us for the conversation. And this hopefully isn't the last. And I do recognize everything that you said and that you talked about, because we do need each other, because everybody's suffering. And you talk about all the job losses, Social Security, veterans, and then you add on being black. Then you add on being a black man or a woman, or a minority, or someone with a disability. So you add on that on, who they gonna talk to? They may not have benefits to go talk to somebody. They may be in the house depressed. We all may be dealing with different things as well. We all have different jobs. We don't know how that's affected. Department of Education is basically done. I'm a teacher. To give it back to the states, but then how the states gonna handle it. So we all have different things. Some people have jobs that has federal funding involved. Some of us sit on boards. I go to Case. Case Western just got the email today about, diversity, equity, and inclusion is no longer an office there. It's disbanded immediately. So you touched on everything, and there's a lot of layers that we got to pull back. So hopefully this is step one, and hopefully we could do this more often and, bring more brothers in, from different orgs, even your org, et cetera, and keep moving forward. But the rivalry standpoint, and you touched on, how you view it, I just want to give one of y'all a chance to just kind of respond, maybe the thinking. You're not saying that it's how you think now, right, but the thinking that you brought into it, and maybe what may have flipped the switch for you or would help you change, because sometimes if that, whatever persisted back in whenever you cross, could still kind of persist now. I ain't going to that, or I ain't about to sit down and talk to them. So I guess maybe talk about your mental and your thought process of transformation, because I know it wasn't always, right, green pastures and all of that.
Well, for me, like you, earlier on, it was Kappa against the world. And I mean, quite honestly, and no disrespect, I think Kappa Alpha Psi is the greatest fraternity in the world. And I would like to think that y'all feel the same about your fraternity.
Yeah.
Pride, yes.
But at the end of the day, like my man said at the end, Brother West, Walton, we all black men. And so over time, the people that we help, because like Brother Jackson said, all of our fraternities are grounded in community service. And the people that we help in our communities, most of which don't belong to an organization like ours. You just gave me an incredible aha moment, Brother Jackson, because you said the Divine Nine, our numbers are way higher than any other black organization. That's a huge aha moment. And if we really, really combine together with the numbers that you said of people that's going to be affected by the changes that's going on politically, our community needs us. And it needs us to be united and not divided, So Yeah, of course, earlier on, I was a hothead just like you. But for now, just like my brother said, when I see another brother that has other fraternity letters on, even when I see a brother that don't, I'm still saying, what's up, brother, And it depends on if he is in a fraternity, where he's at that time. Either way it go, I done had the young guys make, slick comments and stuff, but I'm not there no more because I'm confident in mine. You know what I'm saying? I know what I've done and I know what we do. When I see y'all doing great things, it is a healthy competition. I'm like, damn, this is they doing numbers over there. I'm gonna keep it real. Like, okay, and that's great because I know that the event that y'all doing is grounded in community service, which again, it's a healthy competition. That make me want to call. Look, man, see what the Iotas over there doing? They doing numbers. I'm keeping it 100. Yeah. So we want to do the same thing, or even better, because it's going to ultimately help out the community.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's so much that goes into it, right? Yeah. And I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off in a minute because you touched on something that I'm gonna hit on. But did you want to add to that before I rip the Band-Aid off?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in the sandbox with everybody else. I mean, it's pretty much the same. Like when we crossed, it was Kappa against the world, and it's funny because all of my friends from high school all went to Morgan State, and all of them became Qs. And they were online when we were online at the same time. So we used to, what y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? And we had payphones calling each other just to figure it out. So, but then when we all crossed, I remember we all met up in Daytona Beach. And it was 94, we all met. So all the Qs from there, then it was Kappas from our area, and we ended up getting in the fight.
And y'all friends.
And we was friends.
Because it's embedded.
It was embedded in you.
No, we did this. Y'all didn't do this. You know what I'm saying? So, like you stated earlier, it's how we all grew up, where it was either your first or your last. It was a competition. It was the egos. It was all of that. And now, as I know personally with me, as I've evolved, I know that there's strength in numbers. And in order for us as black men to achieve anything in this society and in this world, you can't do it alone. Exactly. You cannot do it alone. Everybody I was one that was trying to do it alone. And I had to reach out and ask for help. And now, and it's odd because going back to what some Ken said earlier in regards to his sons, like my youngest daughter taught me about mental health. Because I didn't know nothing about no ADHD, no anxiety. They didn't have that when I grew up. Right. Or they wasn't talked about. And it was, you figure it out and you keep moving. But when I took her, and I talk about this, she graduated from Laurel, and I introduced her for her senior speech. And this is what I talked about, how I learned from her as her father. And I was humble enough to understand it. I didn't know, and I learned from my youngest daughter, but she refused. She had a basketball trainer. She played basketball, and the trainer was a male, and he had guys in the gym that day. And she was in the 7th grade and refused to go in the gym because there was other guys there. And she clammed up and was shaking and everything. And I went off because all I knew was how I was raised by my father and my mom, like, hurry up, get on out there and go to practice. You know what I'm saying? Get out the car, hurry up, go meet some friends. And that's the approach I had with her, and that didn't work. And she got in the car and she was like, I just don't know. I wanted to get in there. I just didn't know how to get in there. And from that point, I started getting on Google and this, that, and the other. And that's when I started understanding about anxiety. And at that point, I was like, wow. All the sports I played, when I used to get the salty mouth and had to spit, and I get so nervous, couldn't sleep, all of those type of things, I just thought that was part of it. But it wasn't. So, understanding that, going back to what you were asking, I mean, it's a maturity thing. And when we first started, as I said, acknowledgement. I think that is so key. Once you can acknowledge that there's an issue, and make the change within yourself, then you can bring other people along.
What they say, acceptance is the first step. Is when you, I know being in school and taking different psychology classes, they always talk about, you may have heard this before, I don't know if I'm right or not, but they say acceptance before you can make a change or to admit that you have a problem, you got to accept it first to work make those steps.
But what I'm saying is acknowledge it. Because if you don't acknowledge it's a problem, you can't go to acceptance. Right. You got to be able to acknowledge and say, look.
You said foundationally.
Yeah.
Acknowledge. And then you can go step one, accept.
That's the way I'm figuring it out.
That's the problem solving
Yeah.
steps. The first part of the problem solving steps is to identify the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you don't know that there's a problem, that's a problem. Because you don't know what to fix.
So I know a problem, and all our organizations and even the ones not here, it's affecting everybody. And you talked about the way y'all came in back in the day that's no longer legal. We talked about hazing, which is a whole nother layer and a whole nother potentially PTSD experience, mentally, physically, emotionally, that one may have. Both ends of the spectrum. We talk about, when it was above ground, and you go things below ground, and then you go, people who may not have, came in how you supposed to, above ground, by the book, and how it's supposed to go. But to me, whether it's hazing or non, to me, all of those affect your mental health. Because you have the 80s and 90s, coming in above ground, whatever it may be, when it was legal. And then you got the era from, without saying too much, the 90s, 2000s, and even more recently, below ground who comes in. And then you have brothers that come in maybe, undergrad or alumni and go through their above ground process with learning about it and doing everything the right way, no pledging, nothing, no hazing involved. But there's still a layer of mental health, because then you go, well, are you worried about being told, well, you didn't come in the way I did? And then you got those who frown upon those who did come in differently. Well, I came in this way, you came in that way. So again, the rivalry, even within our own organizations, not even between organization to organization, it's within, well, you did that, so I can't really rock with you. Right. And every people being, an outlier or excluded. So I guess anybody can start, raise your hand, start talking, let me know, and I'll go to you. But how do we deal with everything you talked about? Benefits, Social Security, Black man in America, our organizations, family, life, trauma, different oars. We got all of that in this pot, and personal issues, and not knowing about anxiety or what to call it, and children, etc. And then we got our organizations within, infighting, how we came in, add hazing to it. So does anybody, I guess, want to jump in? And I'm not saying, jump in the sandbox and put yourself in harm's way, but I'm saying, what we supposed to do now? I mean, everybody see what's in the news. Is an organization dealing with, people have died pledging or from being hazed. It is illegal. People go to jail for doing that. Like, how do you navigate within your org or what you're going or what's going on to say, hey, this is the right way, without losing sleep, being able to trust that people are doing what they're supposed to in your home chapter, your own chapter? Like, is there a remedy? Because that's extra stress.
We may need to be able to have a sense of adaptability, okay? Things the way they used to be aren't that way anymore, right? It's not acceptable, just like we live in a cancel culture right now, right?
Ooh.
And so the fact that we all, I think we fixed this by understanding that we need to truly make this thing divine, right? And not divided, okay? Because we all fighting separately instead of recognizing that we the same.
Right.
And that regardless of what letters that you wear, we all still men at the end of the day. And so once we start to recognize that we can be adaptable and we can change with the times, then you understand what's acceptable and what's not. If you act out of the rules of order, then you will be dealt with. That's what it is. So we all know hazing is illegal. I have some of the best brothers that have come through grad chapter. In our day when we were brought in, You know, we were one of the fastest growing new fraternities. That's how they even decided to have us be invited back to the Panhandle. We were once a part of Panhandle. We got away from Panhandle, and we dealt with a lot with the Interfraternity Council. And then as time happened, we then went to Bloomington, Indiana for the Panhandle induction, and then we started working from the fact that we weren't once included, and then we were included. So we had to have a dynamic shift or a paradigm shift, you know, that where we then became a different. We still gonna build on a tradition and not rest upon one, right? But we're building a tradition a different way. We're adapting to what is now, and we all need each other. So if we all think about your own organization and the cohesiveness of that, think about if every organization was as cohesive with each other organization. I mean, think about it. We have members of the Divine Nine across every organization representing CEOs, entertainers, business entrepreneurs, investors, teachers, doctors, lawyers, everything. We need to bring back unity. We need to make America united again. We need to make America win again, right? And the way we win is by working together. Working together. That's what we have to do, because it's like necessity is the mother of invention. Okay? We have a common problem. We all suffer. So let's find a solution. So let's have an ideal solution. By working together, we can have a stronger foundation. Let's think of the benefits of working together now. And some of the stuff that is existing, we need to extinguish. Just like we need to extinguish hate in society, we need to extinguish some of the traditional morals that existed back then that were unhealthy, that led to our current condition, being divided.
Right, and I think that the hazing and all of that, the younger fraternity members, no matter what org, it's embedded that this is how it's supposed to be. This is tradition, etc. And they want to keep it going, and you get out of your way trying to make sure you keep instead with it. But Mark, I want to ask you, because I know you look at it differently. We all came in undergraduate. You came in alumni. It doesn't make you any less of a member of Kappa Outside, any less of a brother, any less of a member of the Divine Nine. So like, how mentally, how does that with you, like just the way you came in and things you hear about and all the issues?
I think I'm just different. I guess I'm grounded in a belief that what certain things are right, or do they make sense? Because I was approached after I had crossed. I was approached, but in my mind it was illogical, and I don't like to submit to illogical stuff. Like if I said, well, I'm a brother already, so if I go and do this extra thing, okay, it might give me brownie points by a few other people, but my frat don't really recognize it. And I said, it's illogical to, in my mind, it was illogical to submit yourself to a process that was not sanctioned by the organization, because it meant nothing. So it was already those who, I'm laughing because I can't really say what I was, but I know people who did it, and I was thinking in my mind like, well, it just made you feel better. It was like like you scratching your knee and your mother kissing it. It doesn't do nothing, but psychologically you'll feel better. But it doesn't really, it didn't carry a lot of weight. But I kind of wanted to address a little bit about what was said, because I truly believe, as an engineer, like I always, like you want to get to the root of the problem. And the funny thing is, I'll say this, and I just told you what I said. I said, we need Jesus, but when I say that, I don't mean it in the same way a lot of religious people say it. I'm saying you need to adapt a culture that will be resistant to all these things that are causing us these problems. We need to adapt a culture. You need to learn to think for yourself. You need to learn to adapt a culture that learns to talk and learns to, like, as men, we ain't taught to talk. You know, a woman can be up all day long and explain to them what their feelings are. You asked me when I was young, well, how you feel? Literally, I remember there was times people asked me that question, and I did not know how to answer the question because I didn't know how to articulate the right words to say, oh, I'm feeling this way. So I would just get upset. It would make me madder. So it's kind of funny, but I truly believe a lot of our problems are we need to foster a culture that have values where men is in the house and men know how to be leaders. They can't just, I think a lot of times we don't even know how to be leaders. So like you causing more trauma because somebody, your significant other might say something counter to you that you didn't like, you felt like you disrespected, and because she's questioning what you were saying, so you might lash out at her, you know. No, that's not, you know, if you learn, I think as a black people, we gotta look at the values that we hold dearly, that as intelligence, as leaders, we need to pick those values, and we need to then put into our homes, our programs, pushing rewards when you exercise those values. So then when you do that, even in, you know, I've said this, and you know, I know the process is legal. I don't have a problem. So when I look at the concept of pledging, I don't have a problem with that. But at the same time, what are you supposed to be getting out of it when you got to go through it? And in my mind, on the outside, never really been through a process, you should have collectively see a goal, and then all of you find out what your resources, what are you all good at, and how are you going to work together to cross into that Kappa land or into the Iota land or whatever it is. And that's what we were supposed to learn, in my opinion, when you're online. So now can you imagine if all the Divine Nine comes together collectively and say, what do we collectively, what do our skill sets are? What do we could do? How do we know how to do it? And and come together and figure out how do we instill all those values in our community to change all this around? Because that's what America is doing for America, right? That's what they doing for America. They looking at America and say, we want America to go this way. That's what the leaders are doing. And they got experts in these fields, and they ask the experts what is supposed to happen. And then they all different. You know, that's one thing I like about Kappa, because it's diverse. It says in every human field of human endeavor, that diversity, and you ask each of those experts, because some of it's going to not make sense or kind of go away. I mean, one expert is going to say something that another expert is going to be like, well, no, but you can try to balance it to get the best solution to where you need to go. And that is, when you look at the leadership in America today and their plans to execute whatever they're trying to do, to me, it looks like their interest to make America better is to make the billionaires more powerful. Now, in my mind, it should be the middle class should be the most powerful. So if everybody looked at, and to me, the Divine Nine, they're going to reside mainly in the middle class. So what is it that we need to protect our interests? And how do we do that? And we have the power, because even Trump said it. He said the biggest threat to America is the organized black organizations. That's what he said in his first term. So he said what, I forget which one of you brothers said, he already understood
Power and numbers.
our power and our numbers. And he already understood that we, counter to what the message go out, that we're not together, but we are together. This last election, who did the black folks vote for? Over 90% of us voted the same way. So we are together. We just now need to take our resources and learn how to manipulate our resources to meet our interests.
Right, and be more organized. So 2 last questions as we start to wrap it up, because we're not going to be able to talk everything and get through it all in one session. So we'll have more.
I'm glad that
So
one got skipped anyway.
so one question for this side of the room as we go back to, to kind of end on the haze, and then I'll ask one last question to conclude it so we can wrap this up. We also see those members who come in either above ground, below ground, whatever it may be, go through a process, don't go through a process, that just kind of walk away and then they're just not active anymore. I mean, it is, and I guess any of you can speak because we've been on this. Let's spread it out. Anybody want to maybe take a gander? Is that mental health? Is that not understanding something? Is that a disconnect? Is that another layer that you got to peel back that was so bad to where somebody may walk away from an organization? Not really walk away, but I'm gonna chill out. I don't want to really do much. I'm not going to be around. No matter how you came in, the numbers are staggering of how many we lose, or just people. I mean, there's even another movement of people who don't even want to be associated and say, I'm not a member anymore. So like, what is that? A mental health? Is that something else going on? Like, has they ever thought about it, discussed it? What you may say, and that we'll do that and we'll wrap up because I know we're short on time.
All right, I'll jump in real quick, and then still go back to the hazing thing, in which I was tap dancing, didn't want to get involved in that conversation. And the reason why I didn't want to get involved in that conversation is because there's a political answer and then there's a real answer. A good political, and I'm being totally, we in the barbershop, the political answer is the fact that each one of these fraternities and sororities are a business now. And businesses evolve. And these cases cost money, and the fraternities lose money. And it's bad luck, cancel culture, everything like that. So as a business, you have to evolve. So therefore, what Mark said is that if it's not a function of the fraternity at the top, it shouldn't be happening in individual chapters. So that's the full forward answer on the political side. However, crossing in '94, the 6 of us, 6 feet deep at Edinburgh University, we all went to Allegheny. We were 56 black people on Allegheny's campus, and all the black people of those 56 were athletes. Kappa came to me and saved me. The 6 of us went through, the pleasure was legal then.
You did what you did.
Yeah, we did what we did and things like that, but that brought us together. I still remember every lesson like it was yesterday. I still got all the poems in my head. I got one on my arm. I wake up every morning and say one. So those lessons right there, I don't know I would be the man I am today if I didn't have those lessons. So that's one of the things. However, today's society has taken it and took it far left. They have taken it far left, and I'm not for that. However, I do see how individuals who started the journey, who may have fell off, and now come back and go, through the new process or whatnot, but still choose to go the basement because they don't feel fulfilled. And that goes back to what we're talking about as far as mental health, understanding who they are, and this, that, and the other, and that winning. A lot of brothers, I've talked to brothers like, you already in. What sense does that make? I don't feel whole. Right. I don't feel whole because I started this journey when I was a young man and I didn't get through, and it's eating me up my whole life, and I gotta finish it. That's going back to what we said, how we're made. That's our DEA and things like that. So how can we tell a brother like that no, and let him sorrow and that guilt or that you know, for the rest of his life? And that's the struggle in my head with it, because I know what it did for me, and I seen what it did to other brothers. And getting back to your question, I think that is one of the biggest issues now. It's because there's no skin in the game, pun intended. There's no skin in the game now. It's a financial game, but there's no skin in the game. So when you have brothers come in through the different processes and they pay, and it's not as glorified as they thought it would be, or they don't feel fulfilled, they disappear. They disappear. But pledging, you got skin in the game. You got skin in the game. When I crossed in '94, right after that, the big national thing,
Moratorium.
We thought we was the last of the Mohicans. We was like, they ain't making no more. We the last ones, you know. But that was a badge that we wore. And during that time, I don't know, Ken, remember, like '94 was notorious. Like, we didn't wear many like Kappa colors or nothing like that because it was in us. It was in us, and I remember I don't need to wear it. It's in me. People know, and that was just the attitudes that we had then. And I'm looking forward, moving forward, the stuff that's going on and things like that is crazy. But I struggle with the fact that I know I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go through that process.
I mean, you said acknowledgement. You had to acknowledge what goes on, and that's the real.
Right.
Now, we all keep talking about it, but we got a solution. How to fix it? How do we move forward? How do we get more conversations like this? How do we set a tone, and how do we come together to adapt to today's time so we can move forward without all the issues that come with it? And then being, after you acknowledge it, accepting it. Because if you acknowledge and then you don't accept, you go back to the ground level and zero.
I know we about to get out of here, but the funny thing, as Pole Mark, you hear everything. I had a brother call me and say, why don't they come up with a program for brothers who want to go in the basement and have it set and regimented so they can still have that experience, but it's overseen and it's regulated. And I thought, and I said, that might be the craziest shit I heard, but it makes sense. It's like, and then the way the brother explained it to me, he said, people go to Cedar Point and get on the highest thing they can get on and risk their lives when they know they could possibly fall off. But they still do it. And when I heard it, it made sense in the grand scheme of things because it can be regulated and things like that. But, I mean, that's something that it has to have that conversation. Closing your eyes and pretending like it's not going on and pretending like it's going to cease is not the answer. So we
Don't look away. Don't look away.
Don't look away. Behind the back pass. That's not the answer.
So I know you had your hand up. So did you want to respond to my question? Because then after that I'm gonna go to that final question so we can wrap this up. Yeah, like just what about hazing and just brothers that just walk away whether they came, no matter how they came in, they just don't want to be involved. I thought you had your hand up. My fault.
Well, I just got a real strong philosophy about people who want to be in it, and it's kind of like a marriage. You know, sometimes the marriage don't really go as planned. So sometimes if you're not connected and you're not with it, you can do more harm being in it than not. So they're not there. And sometimes the best thing to do is to walk away. Believe it or not, is to walk away.
Just
then come back later. I know, and it has every entity. I work in human resources. I vouch for a lot of different people. Third of the people I vouch for go on haywire. I'm like, I mean, I remember vouching for a girl who worked in employee labor relations, and I said she's a very good interviewer, very good this. She came belligerent, she came resistant, she came detached, a whole lot of things. So it's it's just human nature. People are going to detach. People are going to walk away. It's them. They're not there with you. As far as hazing, the hazing part of it that's a very difficult point, because number one is cultural.
Yes.
It goes back to Africa. You got the crocodile people who got slashes on their arm. Everything that black people really have, and I know you guys say it also, is blood, sweat, and tears in it. So how can you get this if there's no blood, sweat, and tears in it? You just want me to hand it to you? I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps, and one of our first things we did, we took the Eagle Global Anchor and we put right in the middle of your palm, and we pierce your palm. Say, now you're a Marine. So everyone got that burning sands moment that they got to do, but we battle with self. Self is, we in the new world. As a black man, I always tell black men, you got to reinvent yourself. Everybody mentioned Trump, but the key is, how do I implement myself in this new world?
Adapt.
To go forward with Trump. How do I implement myself? We got to ask ourselves this question. Hazing against the law. Can't do it. National says no. Culturally is yes. So that's a huge battle. But we got to answer those stressful type conversations. We got to evolve into this place where this is a new world. You said you're a school teacher, right?
Yes. Yep.
High school look different now. The schools look different now than ever before, don't they?
Yeah.
The boys look different.
Yes.
Girls look different.
Yeah.
Act different. You're
Yeah.
trying to figure out what roles it is. Same as we have to do the same thing. We got to evolve in this new world to be there.
That's real. And I'm gonna stay with you, and I'm gonna go all the way around for our last points. You can answer, touch on anything, or just any advice you want to give as we close this out and end this. So I'll start with you, and everybody get to say their piece or answer anything or touch on anything or one last word as we kind of close this out. Because we obviously going to have a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and keep going. So I'll start with you, your last point or anything you want to mention, and then we'll just go down the line.
I think it's about coming together, working together, and it's more than just saying it. This is a good foundation. How we talk, and everything comes about talk first. Everything is an idea that we manifest it. There's a lot of things in the black community, but an important brother said, well, hold on a minute. You mentioned a lot of stuff, but what are you doing? You know, when you say something, give me something else.
Right.
You know, give me something else. So it starts with you.
Well, touching on mental health piece, I would just say, first, if you're going through a lot of things, if you got to cry, cry. If you got to cry when nobody's around, then cry when nobody's around. But after that, gather yourself up and look for help wherever you can find it. Find a friend, start talking. And I think that goes a long way. And hopefully you will find professional help as well.
Amen.
So in closing, I would think when we're talking about mental health, we have to remember that it's now like a catchphrase. Mental health is a catchphrase. We sort of like have this huge umbrella, and so anything that happens in the community, we call it mental health. DSM-5 is a diagnostic statistical manual of mental health disorders, and so it's a lot of different specific mental health disorders that unless you don't unlayer the mental health, you won't find out what it is. So that's the first thing. We need to be identifying and acknowledging the fact that this is a problem. And then in terms of solution, we are the perfect vehicle in the Divine Nine to be the ones to address this with our far reach. Like I said, 4 million members nationwide. We're the largest black organization in the world. So we have, from Kamala Harris to everybody's organization. You all are familiar with notable people in your organization across every spectrum of industry. We need to start working together. We have to use our platform for something. We have to speak out against injustices, and we have to build peace. And finally, people don't always talk about their mental health. I was happy to hear that you guys were talking about that when you said I was the only person in the room that didn't have a therapist. You know, on January 15th of 2023, I got hit in a car crash by a drunk driver, right? So I'm left with all of these, I'm left with the fallout, you know, and now I'm dealing with and recovering from it. So God blessed me with a position as a mental health worker, but then right after 2 years in, I had to employ the coping strategies that I learned to do the work. So he gave me an opportunity to use those strategies and then taught me more. So when I return to work, now I work in a different area. Listen, mental health is real. Substance abuse and chemical dependency is real. Trauma is real. So if we take an opportunity to work together, we can build. So I applaud you all for having this forum, because I didn't know how much I needed this before I came today. But I need to be in a room with other like-minded people. We need to start bringing back think tanks and brainstorming how to solve the problems that are in our community. And I think we're in a perfect position as leaders to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah. First, thank you for the platform. I didn't know I needed this as well. My headache is gone. That's odd. So that goes to show the importance of understanding your mental health. I think to sum this whole conversation up is you have to acknowledge and understand that you have been traumatized throughout life, and you are a victim of PTSD, to get your mental together so that now you can reach back or reach with and bring people along with you, so now that you can go and face the world together, as all of us should. And then if your mental is good, the vision and the plan, and you know where you're going, I think the egos and everything like that doesn't even play a role. And someone said earlier, having a common goal and going after a goal. I think that's what we should be doing. I was a little bit upset when we were here. Last time I was here, we had the voter registration, the boots on the ground and things like that. And everybody was so invigorated and we were coming together and this, that, and the other, and then it just fizzled. And it fizzled because I don't think we had a goal in place to go after. And I would love to see all of us get together and say, what's our goal? And work together to achieve that goal, and meanwhile setting another one as we achieve that one. And I think that'll keep us going while we concentrate on our mental health and healing. I think all of that is a healing process. So that's my take on today. But I love this forum. I think we need more of it, and I think it needs to be continuous, a continuous growing conversation.
Big wave. I had to say it.
I'd like to thank the brothers from Iota Theta for coming out, and also give another invite to the other fraternities to come out and have these very worthy conversations. Like Brother Jackson said, in the Divine Nine, we are 4 million strong, and our expertise crosses every industry that makes the planet go. So, like Brother Polmark said, we need to come together and get action steps. And I agree with you. You know, that was a great boots on the ground. We left out of here fired up, and it was like, yeah. Now what? You know what I'm saying?
Where do we go?
Hey, like when the slaves got released, like, yeah. Now what? You know what I'm saying? So I think that we should take advantage, harness this energy. Brothers keep talking to each other regardless of the person you're talking to. If they don't bear the same letters on your chest, if they don't have any fraternity letters at all, brothers keep talking to each other.
All right. As I guess I close this all out, I want to thank everyone for coming to this great thing that we did today. But there's a couple things I want to leave you all with is you don't have to be going through something to seek mental health. I mean, even if you feel like you're okay, it's still okay to have that. Also, mental health is not an end date. It can end whenever you want it to, but you should try to assign a start date. And the last thing that I think is most concerning to me is just removing this or dispelling the stigma behind mental health for African American men. I think we still haven't, I know there's a lot of education, I know there's a lot of marketing behind it, and it is actually growing, but I still think that's a negative stigma attached to it. That's one of the things that I'm really concerned about. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to thank all y'all for being a part of this, for showing up, getting the conversation started. Like I said, it'll be more, so if you're watching this and you hear this, you want to be a part of the conversation, reach out, let us know. We're here for you. You touched on something real big, and I always say it's okay not to be okay. It's just acknowledge it and get the help and reach out. Don't just leave it all bottled up. Like, let it out, express yourself. There's somebody here that wants to hear you, somebody here that wants to help. And hopefully this shows that, we're not just going to talk about it. We actually want to be there, and we want to move forward and get some steps going. So you'll hear from us. You want to get involved, reach out. And again, I just thank you. Appreciate y'all listening. Appreciate you watching if you see this. And as always, take care. God bless.
Before you cut the camera off, my frat brother's getting ready to cut my hair right now at 9 o'clock at night. Am I correct? Get out my chair. Let's go.
Take it easy. We out.